Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons and love are told. Sit back, relax, and don't forget to like this story, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more. My name is Mariah, and I'm 28 years old. I've served in the army for nearly a decade now, and throughout those years, I carried the weight of home with me everywhere I went. Even when I was stationed overseas, when the nights were cold and the barracks too quiet, I'd always think of my family back in Ohio. I believed, in some corner of my heart, that the sacrifices I made both in uniform and through the steady financial help I sent home were building a bridge back to them. I thought that one day, when I finally had the time to come back and stay for a holiday, we'd laugh, eat, and breathe as one family again. For years, my paychecks had been split. Half went to my own survival, and the other half went into the house where my parents lived. The mortgage, the utilities, the car insurance, all of it quietly had my fingerprints on it. My younger sister, Claire, never had to worry about tuition or her phone bill because I covered those too. I told myself it was worth it, that I didn't need thank yous or hugs, because love was supposed to be unspoken, steady, like the way an anchor holds a ship even if no one sees it. That was why, last November, I was filled with a kind of stubborn hope. I told my unit that I'd be heading home for Christmas. I wanted it so badly: snow on the driveway, lights on the windows, the smell of gingerbread like it used to be before I left. I didn't expect a parade. I just wanted to belong again. I texted my father, Raymond, about my flight details. He didn't respond right away, which wasn't unusual. He had always been a man of few words. But when his reply finally came, I swear the ground tilted beneath me. His message was short, sharp, and colder than the December wind. "Christmas is better without you." I stared at the screen, waiting for it to shift into a joke, waiting for the dots of another message, some clarification. But nothing followed. Just that one sentence, clear as cut glass. I felt my chest tighten, my breath shallow. For years I had fought to stay alive in places where people wanted me dead, and yet nothing compared to the violence of those 5 words. I typed and deleted countless responses. What could I say? Beg? Ask why? Rage? In the end, my hands trembled as I wrote just one word back. Okay. And then I put the phone down. My whole body shook, not from anger, not yet, but from something deeper. A loneliness I hadn't let myself feel since I was 18 and walked into boot camp with no one waving goodbye at the gate. I didn't cry right away. The tears didn't come until later, when I sat on the edge of my bunk, clutching the pillow to my chest, whispering to myself that it was fine, that I didn't need anyone. But the truth was bitter. I wanted my family. I wanted them to want me back. I tried to convince myself that maybe it was stress, maybe Dad hadn't meant it literally. Still, when I called my mother, Ellen, the silence on the other end told me everything. She said, "Your father just thinks it's better this way. You know how he gets around the holidays." Her voice was flat, rehearsed, like she'd already decided her place was beside him, not beside me. And Claire? She didn't answer at all. I saw her update on social media the next day, posing with friends in front of their decorated dorm room, smiling like life was simple. Not a word about me, not even a message. I still boarded the plane though. Part of me refused to give up. Maybe if I just showed up, it would be different. Maybe the sight of me walking through the door with gifts in my arms and stories from the army would thaw whatever frost had built up between us. When I landed in Cleveland, I didn't go straight to the house. I couldn't. My hands shook too much on the steering wheel of the rental car. Instead, I drove to a motel off the highway, a modest place with a neon vacancy sign that buzzed louder than my own heartbeat. The room smelled of stale air, but it had a bed and 4 walls that didn't look at me with disappointment. From that motel window, I could see the faint glow of holiday lights scattered across the neighborhood. It felt surreal that families were gathering, singing carols, holding each other close, while mine had sent me a message to stay away. I hadn't been invited, but I was here, and for the first time in years, I realized I wasn't a daughter in their eyes. I was the only bank account that had learned how to shoot a rifle. On Christmas morning, I didn't drive to the house. I didn't dare risk the humiliation of being turned away at the door. Instead, I sat in the motel lobby with a cup of bitter coffee, watching other guests rush out with wrapped gifts and bright scarves. I told myself I didn't need it, that I was stronger than longing. But deep down, I felt like a child pressed against the window of a warm house, staring at a fire she could never touch. My phone buzzed once. A message from Claire. For a fleeting second, my heart leapt. Maybe she wanted to see me, maybe she was different. But when I opened it, all I saw was a group photo of her and my parents, standing in front of the tree, each of them holding mugs of cocoa. The caption read, "Family is everything. Merry Christmas." That was when the tears came, silent, relentless, shaking my whole body until I thought I might break apart. I pressed my hands to my face and let them fall, because there was no one there to see, no one there to comfort me. I was invisible to them, except for what I could give, but in that quiet collapse, something else stirred. A tiny ember of clarity. If I meant so little to them, then maybe it was time to stop pretending I meant everything. If Christmas was better without me, then perhaps their bills and their comforts could be better without me too. I didn't make any sudden moves that day. I didn't rush to cut ties. I just sat there, letting the thought settle in me, heavy but sure. I had been living my whole adult life in service first to my country, then to a family that never saw me. Maybe it was time to serve myself, even if it meant standing alone. When I drove past their street on December 26th, the lights were still twinkling, the driveway clear of snow. I slowed the car, staring at the house where my childhood had unfolded. I remembered the smell of my mother's pies, the sound of Claire's laughter, my father's voice teaching me how to ride a bike. And then I remembered the message. "Christmas is better without you." I pressed the gas pedal and didn't stop until the house disappeared from the rearview mirror. At that moment, I knew that something fundamental had shifted inside me. The next chapter of my life wasn't going to be about proving my worth to them anymore. It was going to be about showing myself that I was worth more than their silence, more than their rejection, more than the chains I had willingly carried. I didn't know yet how it would all unfold. I only knew that the next time my father or mother looked for me, they wouldn't find the obedient daughter who sent money without question. They would find someone they had created with their cruelty, a woman ready to walk away. The first days after Christmas felt like a fog I couldn't escape. I returned to the base, went through the motions, trained with my team, smiled when I had to, but inside me something was hardening. I had always thought loyalty to family was sacred, no matter how cold things got, but that text from my father shattered whatever blind loyalty I had left. For years, I had funneled money home as if it were oxygen, believing it kept the family alive. Now, I realized I had been nothing more than their unseen provider. I wasn't a daughter, I was an invisible servant. The moment of decision came quietly. I sat at my desk with a stack of bank statements and copies of wire transfers. Each number felt like a memory of the sacrifices I had made. Mortgage payments I covered while stationed overseas. Car insurance bills I took care of even while living out of a backpack. Utilities, groceries, Claire's college expenses all flowing steadily from me to them. The deeper I went into the records, the more my chest tightened. If I stopped sending, the house wouldn't hold. The car might be repossessed. The stability they paraded on social media would vanish. And that was when the ember inside me flared. Why should I be the one holding everything up while being treated like nothing? Why should my blood and sweat, earned under desert suns and through nights of gunfire, be poured into people who didn't even want to sit at a Christmas table with me? So I wrote one letter. It wasn't long, but it was precise. I sent it to the mortgage company, officially removing my automatic payments and requesting all future bills be redirected to my parents directly. The same with the car insurance. I contacted Claire's school. Ensuring her tuition responsibility fell squarely into my mother and father's hands. With each message I sent, I felt lighter. It wasn't revenge, yet it was survival. At first, there was silence. Weeks went by. I almost thought they hadn't noticed. But then, the calls began. "Mariah," my mother's voice shook through the phone, "there must be some mistake. The mortgage didn't go through this month." "No mistake," I said calmly. "That's on you now." Her sharp inhale sliced through the line. "You can't just stop. Do you realize what's at stake?" "The house." I cut her off. "I realize perfectly. And I also realize I'm not welcome there. You made that clear." She didn't reply, just hung up. And for the first time, I felt an odd sense of peace, but peace never lasts long when people feel entitled to what isn't theirs. Soon, it wasn't just my mother's calls. My father rang me late at night, his tone filled with rage. You ungrateful brat, he spat. After everything we've done for you, I almost laughed at that, the bitterness twisting my throat. Everything you've done for me, Dad. You sent me a message telling me Christmas was better without me. That's all I needed to know. You think you can just cut us off? He shouted. We'll take legal action if we have to. I stayed silent, letting his fury burn itself out. When he realized I wasn't responding, he slammed the line dead. Then came the texts from Claire. At first, they were pleading. Please, Mari, just cover this month until Dad figures things out. Then, when I didn't respond, they turned sharp. You're ruining everything. If we lose the house, it'll be your fault. I stared at those words, stunned at how easy it was for her to shift the blame. I had carried her for years with her books, her meals, her nights out with friends. And now that I stopped, I was the villain. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't type a thing. Silence was the only answer they deserved. The following month, the desperation deepened. Letters from the bank began piling at my parents' doorstep, and word somehow reached extended family. My aunt called me, her tone dripping with judgment. Mariah, your parents say you've abandoned them. Is that true? I clenched my jaw. I didn't abandon them. They told me Christmas was better without me. I listened, but family is family, she insisted. Sometimes you have to sacrifice. I already have, I said quietly. More than anyone knows. When she kept pressing, I hung up. By the third month, I could sense the panic in every message that arrived. They weren't asking me to come home. They weren't asking about my well-being. They were asking about money. Always money. The very thing that had tied us together was now the thing unraveling us. Then came the letter from their lawyer. Thick envelope, crisp paper filled with accusations that I had a duty to continue supporting my parents since I had set a precedent. Reading it felt surreal, like I wasn't a daughter at all but some failed investment they were trying to sue for more returns. I didn't cry this time. I didn't even tremble. Instead, I calmly gathered my own records, every receipt, every transfer, every bill I had covered since I was 18. I organized them in a binder page by page, timestamp by timestamp. It wasn't just documentation. It was my life's proof, the evidence of how much I had given without ever being truly seen. Still, even with that binder heavy in my lap, the nights were the hardest. I'd lie awake in my barracks room, staring at the ceiling, wondering how a family could turn so quickly, how love could be so conditional. The silence from them when I needed affection had been loud, but now their voices filled my phone only when bills were due. That truth cut deeper than any deployment ever had. What gave me strength was the realization that I wasn't powerless anymore. Every day I resisted the urge to cave in, to send another payment out of guilt. Every day I chose myself. I built a little more of the backbone I'd been missing for years. By spring, the mortgage company had already started its formal notices. My father sent me a furious email saying I was heartless, that I was destroying the family legacy. But all I could think of was how heartless it had been to cast me aside during Christmas. My silence then was their victory. My silence now was my rebellion. One evening, as I was jogging around the base track, I saw an email come through from my Uncle Henry. Unlike the others, he had never asked me for money. He rarely contacted me at all. In fact, his message was short. We need to talk. Don't respond to their lawyer yet. Meet me when you're home next. My heart pounded faster than my feet. Why Henry? What did he know? I tucked the thought away, letting it simmer. I wasn't ready to hope yet, not after everything. But something about his words made me think that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone in this fight as I had believed. And so I waited, binder in hand, silence as my shield, while my family's world began to shake without the foundation I had once provided. When I finally returned home that summer, the air was heavy with a tension I could taste before I even reached the front porch. A letter from the family's lawyer had been the final shove that brought me back, not out of guilt, but because I was ready to face them. I carried my binder in a simple canvas bag, the weight of it grounding me like body armor. Each page inside wasn't just paperwork, it was the evidence of a decade of sacrifice that had been swallowed without gratitude. Walking up the path to the house, I noticed the lawn was unkempt, weeds curling around the steps, and the paint on the siding had started to peel. For the first time, I could see the cracks that my money had been covering all these years. Without me, the house looked as tired as I felt, Inside, my parents sat stiffly at the dining table. Claire was there too, her arms crossed tight across her chest, her phone face down beside her like it was itching to record. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed man in a navy suit, shuffled his papers and barely glanced at me. And then, at the far end of the table, Uncle Henry sat, calm and quiet, like he had been waiting for this moment longer than I knew. My father, Raymond, spoke first, his voice loud and sharp as a whip. "Mariah, sit down. We're not here to argue. We're here because your actions have jeopardized this family." I slid into a chair without a word, meeting his eyes but giving him nothing. "You stopped the mortgage," he barked. "You stopped the insurance, Claire's tuition. You left us hanging with no warning." I pulled the binder out of my bag and placed it squarely on the table. The sound of it hitting the wood echoed louder than his accusations. "I gave more warning than you ever gave me," I said softly. My mother leaned forward, her lips tight. "We're your family. You don't just stop supporting your family. We raised you." I opened the binder to the first page and slid it toward them. "This is every payment I've made since I enlisted. Mortgage, car insurance, tuition, groceries. I didn't stop supporting you overnight. I supported you for 10 years, and not once did any of you ask how I was doing. Not once did you thank me. And when I told you I was coming home for Christmas, you told me it was better without me." Claire shifted uncomfortably, but she didn't speak. My father's face flushed with anger. "We didn't mean it like that. You're twisting things." I flipped another page, the neat print of a bank statement staring back at him. The words were clear. "You said Christmas was better without me. So I took you at your word. If I don't belong at your table, then I don't belong in your bills either." For a moment, silence pressed against the walls. My father's fists clenched on the table. My mother's eyes darted toward the lawyer like he might rescue her. But before he could speak, Uncle Henry cleared his throat. "I think it's time I spoke," he said, his voice low but steady. Every head turned toward him. Henry leaned forward, his gaze fixed on me. "Mariah, I've watched you carry this family on your back while they treated you like a stranger. I stayed quiet too long, and for that, I apologize. But I need you to know something. I rewrote my will last year. Every piece of land, every asset, every savings account, everything I have is now in your name." The room erupted. My father shot to his feet, his chair screeching against the floor. "You what?" Henry didn't flinch. "I've seen who values what in this family. They value your paycheck. They value what you can do for them. But you've given without recognition. You've shown the discipline and strength that deserves a future. And I'll be damned if I let you walk away empty-handed." My mother's voice trembled. "Henry, you can't be serious. She's tearing this family apart." "No," Henry said firmly, his eyes sweeping across the table. "You did that the day you decided your daughter wasn't worth a seat at Christmas. Mariah didn't break this family. You broke it by choosing convenience over care, money over love." Claire finally spoke, her voice small, almost a whisper. "Uncle, this isn't fair. She's not the only one in this family." Henry's eyes softened as he looked at her. "Fairness isn't about splitting what people haven't earned. It's about recognizing who stood up when no one else did. You've had her covering your life for years, Claire. What have you given her in return?" The lawyer shifted uncomfortably, but it was clear the air had shifted. My father sank back into his chair, his anger simmering but powerless. My mother stared at the binder as if it might burst into flames. And Claire looked at me with something between resentment and shame. For the first time in years, I felt my shoulders relax. Not because I needed Henry's inheritance, though the security was undeniable, but because someone in that room finally said out loud what I had always known but was too afraid to claim. I mattered. My sacrifices mattered. My existence wasn't invisible. I closed the binder slowly, tucking it back into my bag. "I didn't come here to beg. I didn't come here for forgiveness. I came to show you the truth, and now you've seen it. Whatever happens next, I'll be fine. Because for the first time in my life, I'm choosing myself." My father muttered under his breath. My mother dabbed her eyes with a tissue, and Claire slumped in her chair. But I didn't stay to hear more. I rose, gave Uncle Henry a grateful nod, and walked out of the house that had taken so much from me. The summer air felt different as I stepped outside, lighter, freer. For years, I had let that house define me. Now, I realized, I was free to define myself. That night, back at the motel, I sat on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The anger had cooled, replaced by a strange calm. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need their recognition. I had proof of what I had given, and I had Henry's faith in me as a final seal. But more than that, I had myself. And that was enough. And that's how my story ended, not with me crawling back to a family that rejected me, but with me walking away stronger, holding proof of my worth and the quiet blessing of someone who saw me all along. The moral of my story is simple. Blood alone doesn't make a family. A true family is made of those who value you, respect you, and want you at their table even when you have nothing to give. For years, I gave everything: money, time, loyalty, and received rejection in return. But by choosing myself, by refusing to be used, I found peace that no amount of money could ever buy. To anyone listening, never let guilt chain you to people who treat you like a burden. You have the right to draw boundaries. You have the right to walk away. And sometimes, walking away is the only way to heal. So, friends, if this story touched you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your loved ones. Drop a comment below and tell me what lesson you took from this story. Your words matter here because unlike my family, I see you.